Behind Hollywood's golden facade, two titans of cinema clashed in a rivalry that was as secret as it was intense. Steve McQueen and Paul Newman, both beloved for their cool, tough guy personas, were locked in a battle few knew about. Until now, off-screen, egos collided, and the thirst for dominance simmered beneath the surface, turning their professional rivalry into a tale of scandal and competition that would quietly define their careers. Steve McQueen and Paul Newman were two sides of the same coin. In the 60s and 70s, they represented a new kind of masculinity in Hollywood. Rugged, rebellious, effortlessly cool. McQueen, the king of cool, epitomized danger, living life at full speed, on motorcycles and off the set. Newman, the brooding intellectual with piercing blue eyes, seemed more polished, but his smoldering presence and acting chops earned him his own brand of respect. The public adored them, but behind closed doors, their rising fame and their growing egos collided. As McQueen's star ascended, he became obsessed with outshining Newman, a rivalry that began with whispers in the shadows of Hollywood. As McQueen and Newman's fame grew, so did the tension. Each was aware of the other's rise, and that awareness soon turned to rivalry. Behind the scenes, industry insiders gossiped. McQueen wanted more than to just succeed. He wanted to beat Newman. In McQueen's mind, every role Newman turned down was an insult, so McQueen made a habit of avoiding anything Newman rejected. Newman, for his part, wasn't above making subtle jabs. In private circles, he was known to question McQueen's depth as an actor. After all, Newman was known for his serious, emotionally charged performances, while McQueen was more often seen as the action star. It didn't help that McQueen, with his hunger for competition, took it all personally. Hollywood was becoming too small for both of them. It all came to a head in 1974, when McQueen and Newman shared the screen in The Towering Inferno. Behind the glitzy spectacle of this blockbuster disaster film, a scandal brewed over something far more important to both men than the plot: top billing. McQueen's team negotiated fiercely. They demanded that McQueen have an equal number of lines and screen time as Newman. Even the film's credits were the subject of intense negotiations. McQueen's name would appear slightly higher than Newman's, though it would be to the right. Every detail mattered in this battle of egos. But the public never saw the behind-the-scenes power struggle. To them, The Towering Inferno was just another action-packed hit. To McQueen and Newman, it was a war. Rumor has it that the tension was so thick on set, the two stars barely spoke. They avoided each other off camera, leaving their agents to wage silent battles on their behalf. The film became a massive success, but the rivalry only intensified. After The Towering Inferno, the rivalry became less public but more personal. McQueen, now consumed by his desire to avoid comparisons to Newman, placed secret clauses in his contracts. He would refuse to be cast alongside Newman ever again. He didn't want to share the spotlight, and certainly not with someone who had already been labeled his equal, or worse, his superior. Rumors circulated that McQueen even rejected roles he might have liked, just to spite Newman. Hollywood insiders whispered that McQueen feared another direct comparison would harm his image. Newman, meanwhile, seemed to thrive in McQueen's shadow, making quieter moves, yet always coming out on top in the eyes of critics. While their professional rivalry bubbled under the surface, their personal lives were also unraveling. McQueen's off-screen antics were the stuff of legend. His wild affairs, brushes with the law, and notorious temper kept him in the gossip columns. Newman, while outwardly the family man, struggled with heavy drinking and marital issues that he kept carefully hidden from the press. There were whispers that McQueen was once romantically interested in one of Newman's co-stars, creating even more friction between the two men. Though their personal lives never officially crossed paths in a public way, Hollywood insiders speculated that the rivalry extended beyond the screen. It was more than just professional competition, it was personal. The rivalry between McQueen and Newman left an indelible mark on Hollywood. Insiders say their bitter feud created an unspoken rule for A-list actors: never share the screen with someone who could outshine you. The scars of McQueen's obsession with his image could be seen in his later career choices. Some say he turned down roles that could have been defining, just to keep Newman out of his orbit. In contrast, Newman quietly continued to build a legendary career, knowing McQueen was always watching. He leveraged the competition, thriving in his own way. Even after McQueen's tragic death in 1980, the rivalry lived on. McQueen was immortalized as the rebellious icon, a legend taken too soon. For Newman, the shadow of McQueen loomed large, but he kept his cool until the end. Even after their deaths, the secret rivalry between Steve McQueen and Paul Newman remains one of Hollywood's most hidden yet scandalous tales. It's a story of ambition, ego, and the lengths two men would go to be seen as the top dog in Tinseltown. Though the cameras have stopped rolling, the legacy of their feud still lingers in the whispers of Hollywood's elite. Though McQueen may have won some battles, Newman's quiet dominance outlasted him. And in the end, the secret war between them became more than just a story. It became a legend. Though they're no longer with us, the rivalry between Steve McQueen and Paul Newman is a scandal that Hollywood will never forget. The real price of rivalry isn't fame or fortune. It's the toll it takes on the people who live it. What really happened the night Marilyn Monroe died? The world's biggest star was found lifeless in her bed, but the truth behind her death would remain Hollywood's darkest secret. Marilyn Monroe captivated millions with her dazzling smile and sexy charm. But behind the glitz and glamour lurked a world of scandal, addiction, and dangerous liaisons that would ultimately lead to her downfall. Born Norma Jean Mortensen, Marilyn's early life was far from the American dream. Bouncing between foster homes, young Norma Jean learned early on how to hide her pain behind a smile. In one of her rare, candid moments, Marilyn confided to a close friend, "I've never fooled anyone. I've let men fool themselves." Little did she know, this ability to mask her emotions would serve her well in the cutthroat world of Hollywood. As Marilyn's star rose, so did the pressure to maintain her bombshell image. Studio execs demanded she bleach her hair blonde and squeeze into tight dresses. But the girl who grew up with nothing was willing to do anything for fame. In a conversation with a makeup artist, she reportedly said, "If I hadn't been pretty, I don't think anyone would have noticed me at all." Hollywood quickly typecast Marilyn as the dumb blonde, a role that gnawed at her soul. She longed to be taken seriously as an actress, once telling a director, "Please don't make me a joke. End the scene with dignity." But studio bosses saw her as nothing more than a pretty face and a curvy figure. This constant belittling fueled her growing insecurities and pushed her towards the bottle and pill bottle. Marilyn's love life was a roller coaster of highs and lows. Baseball legend Joe DiMaggio seemed like her knight in shining armor, but his jealousy soon turned ugly. After seeing Marilyn's skirt blow up during her famous subway grate scene, DiMaggio lost it. Witnesses say he flew into a rage, screaming at Marilyn and even raising his hand to her. Later, she confided in a friend that DiMaggio didn't like what they were making me into. Their marriage crumbled faster than a Hollywood set. Next came brainy playwright Arthur Miller. Marilyn thought she'd found her intellectual equal, but behind closed doors, their relationship was far from picture perfect. During one argument, she reportedly asked, "Why can't you love me the way I am?" Miller's cutting remarks about her intelligence left deep scars on Marilyn's already fragile ego. As time went on, Arthur grew increasingly distant, leaving Marilyn feeling more alone than ever. But Marilyn's most dangerous affairs were yet to come. Whispers of secret trysts with President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert swirled through Washington and Hollywood alike. Marilyn, who often felt she had to fight for affection, was once overheard saying, "They're all using me, but at least this way, I get something out of it." What pillow talk did Marilyn overhear? Some say she knew about CIA plots against Cuba, mob connections to the White House, and other state secrets that could bring down the government. In the paranoid climate of the Cold War, such knowledge could be a death sentence. As Marilyn's fame grew, so did her demons. Pills to sleep, pills to wake up, pills to numb the pain. Hollywood's golden girl was spiraling, and everyone knew it. In one of her final interviews, she said, "Fame doesn't fulfill you. It warms you a bit, but that warmth is temporary." But the show must go on, and Marilyn kept smiling for the cameras. Behind the scenes, studio execs pushed her to the brink, threatening to replace her if she didn't toe the line. The pressure was unbearable. Then came that fateful night in August 1962. Marilyn's lifeless body was found in her Brentwood home, officially ruled a probable suicide. But many weren't buying it. Was it an accidental overdose? Or something more sinister? Some claim to have heard arguing and a scuffle from Marilyn's house that night. Others whisper about mysterious men in dark suits seen lurking nearby. The plot thickened when Marilyn's personal diary vanished without a trace. A close confidant claimed Marilyn knew too much about the wrong people. What secrets did those pages hold? Some say it contained damning evidence about the Kennedys, the mob, even the CIA. Did it detail JFK's plan to divorce Jackie and marry Marilyn? Or maybe it held proof of Bobby Kennedy's involvement in her death. We may never know the truth, but the diary's disappearance only fueled wild speculation. In death, Marilyn Monroe became an even bigger icon than she was in life. Her tragic end only fueled the public's fascination with the star who seemed to have it all, yet died alone and broken. Conspiracy theories ran rampant. Was she silenced by the mob? Eliminated by government agents? Or was she simply another victim of Hollywood's cruel machine? Marilyn's story is a cautionary tale of fame's dark side. The price of stardom was ultimately too high for the girl who just wanted to be loved. In the end, Marilyn Monroe's greatest performance may have been convincing the world she was happy, while hiding a life of pain, secrets, and scandal that would shock even the most jaded Tinseltown insider. Humphrey Bogart and Errol Flynn were at the pinnacle of Hollywood stardom, but their paths to fame were as different as night and day. Bogart's rise was steady and hard-earned. He cut his teeth on tough roles, his gruff, no-nonsense attitude on and off the screen, making him a symbol of rugged masculinity. His films, Casablanca, The Big Sleep, The Maltese Falcon, cemented his place in history as the ultimate cynic with a heart of gold. Flynn, meanwhile, burst onto the scene like a firework. Known for his swashbuckling heroics, Flynn was charismatic, carefree, and handsome. His roles as a dashing adventurer were beloved by audiences, and his wild lifestyle only fueled his popularity. But while Flynn thrived in the spotlight, Bogart despised his carefree approach to Hollywood life. In the 1930s and 40s, Hollywood was a veritable pressure cooker for star rivalries. The studio system, which controlled every aspect of a star's career, often pitted actors against one another, not just for roles but for public adoration. Studios thrived on stoking competition among their talent to keep them in the spotlight, and media attention played a huge role in shaping the public's perception of these actors. Bogart and Flynn's clash wasn't an anomaly, but rather the result of a system that thrived on building stars up while quietly rooting for their downfall. The glamorous facade often hid deep insecurities and tensions, where fame and fortune were both coveted and precarious. In such an environment, where stars were constantly battling for the top, a rivalry between two of Hollywood's brightest leading men seemed inevitable. As both men rose to fame, it was only a matter of time before their differences brought them into direct conflict. Flynn's outrageous behavior and cavalier attitude toward his career were the antithesis of Bogart's professionalism. The tension simmered just beneath the surface as Hollywood insiders whispered about the growing animosity between them. Flynn was infamous for his outrageous behavior. He partied hard, womanized without shame, and treated Hollywood like his personal playground. His antics landed him in the gossip columns regularly, but Flynn reveled in the attention. Bogart, however, was not impressed. Flynn's womanizing especially disgusted Bogart, who valued loyalty and respect. Bogart's relationship with his wife, Lauren Bacall, was one of Hollywood's legendary love stories, and he fiercely protected her. The idea of Flynn making passes at women with reckless abandon rubbed Bogart the wrong way. The final straw came one fateful night at a swanky Hollywood party. Flynn, fueled by his usual mix of alcohol and swagger, made inappropriate comments about Bacall that quickly spread among the guests. He implied that he had attempted to make advances toward her, whether out of bravado or truth. It didn't matter. For Bogart, this was personal. Bacall, who had long learned how to navigate Hollywood's minefield of egos and advances, reportedly brushed off Flynn's comments with poise, but the moment she relayed them to Bogart, his anger was instantaneous. This wasn't just about Flynn crossing a line. This was about the sanctity of the one stable, honest relationship Bogart had amidst the chaotic Hollywood landscape. Word spread quickly among the partygoers that Bogart had pulled Flynn aside for a heated confrontation. Witnesses later claimed that the two nearly came to blows, their argument so intense that they had to be separated. Flynn, intoxicated and unbothered, tried to laugh off the incident, but to Bogart, this was no joke. His reputation as Hollywood's tough guy wasn't just an act, it was who he was. He viewed Flynn's behavior as not just an insult, but a direct challenge to his integrity and honor as a man. Though the night ended without physical violence, the tension was palpable. Hollywood elites buzzed with gossip, but somehow the story never hit the papers. The feud remained a whispered secret, known only to those in the inner circles of Hollywood's glittering elite. As the 1940s wore on, the rivalry between Bogart and Flynn only intensified. While Bogart's star continued to rise, Flynn's reputation was about to hit rock bottom. The carefree playboy found himself embroiled in one of Hollywood's most infamous scandals, his trial for statutory rape in 1943. Though he was acquitted, the trial left Flynn's public image in tatters. Behind closed doors, Bogart reportedly gloated over Flynn's fall from grace. To him, Flynn's trial was proof of what he had always believed. Flynn was all charm with no substance, a man who lived recklessly and paid the price. The once glamorous Flynn was now tainted, his name forever linked to scandal. Flynn's behavior, which had once seemed daring and exciting, now looked like recklessness spiraling out of control. His drinking worsened, and many in Hollywood who once clamored for his company began to distance themselves. Key figures, directors, producers, and even former friends spoke privately about how Flynn's antics had finally caught up with him. He had become a liability, a star whose brilliance was fading under the weight of scandal, addiction, and poor choices. Hollywood, always quick to find new faces, was already beginning to move on. He lived too fast, too hard, one insider was reported to have said, and now he's paying for it. While Flynn's career continued, it never fully recovered. His legal troubles, combined with his worsening alcoholism, meant that he would forever be remembered more for his scandals than his talent. Bogart, meanwhile, kept his distance, his reputation remaining unscathed as he climbed to new heights of respect and admiration. Though Bogart rarely commented directly on Flynn, he was known for taking subtle jabs at him during interviews, often couching his criticism in humor. He would question Flynn's commitment to the craft, implying that Flynn was more interested in his social life than in his work. "Some actors like to play heroes on and off the screen," Bogart quipped at a dinner party. "But the real tough guys know when to turn it off." Yet, in a twist of irony, Bogart himself struggled with personal demons. He was well known for his heavy drinking and bouts of temper. However, unlike Flynn, Bogart managed to keep his vices under control in the public eye. His love for Bacall and his dedication to his craft created a protective shield around his image, allowing him to navigate Hollywood's murky waters with his reputation intact. As the years passed, Bogart's legacy solidified. Even after his death in 1957, he remained one of Hollywood's most respected figures. His tough guy persona, both on and off the screen, cemented his place as a symbol of old-school masculinity. Critics reappraised his films posthumously, lauding his ability to portray complex characters who embodied both strength and vulnerability. He became a Hollywood icon, whose legacy only grew with time. Flynn, however, wasn't so lucky. Though he continued to act, his later years were marred by his scandals, leaving him remembered more for his off-screen exploits than his cinematic triumphs. Attempts to rehabilitate his image have been less successful, with many viewing him as the tragic cautionary tale of a man who flew too close to the sun. His once bright career was now overshadowed by the weight of his personal failings. In the end, Bogart's life represented Hollywood's ability to survive scandal with dignity, while Flynn's life symbolized its darker side, the toll of living too fast and too recklessly. Their feud, while never fully public, was one of the most intense rivalries of Hollywood's golden age, proving that behind the glamour and fame, Even the brightest stars could harbor dark secrets. Jean Harlow was more than just a star. She was Hollywood's first blonde bombshell. Her rise to fame was meteoric, but behind the platinum hair and glamorous smile, there was a darker side to her life that few ever saw. Beneath the spotlight, secrets swirled and scandals brewed, leaving a trail of unanswered questions about her relationships, her health, and her tragic, untimely death. Born into wealth, Jean Harlow's early life was far from the Hollywood dream. Before the lights, cameras, and fanfare, she lived as a socialite, shielded by her family's wealth. But Harlow wasn't content with high society circles. She wanted more. She wanted fame. When she stepped into the Hollywood scene, she caught the eye of studio executives who quickly transformed her into a cinematic sensation. With her striking platinum blonde hair, dyed to perfection at the studio's insistence, Jean became the new symbol of on-screen sex appeal. But her rise wasn't entirely her own. Hollywood's studio system controlled everything, from her image to her roles, leaving little room for her to assert herself. Jean tried to rebel against the tight grip, but the studio had too much power. She was marketed as the ultimate blonde bombshell, while behind the scenes, she quietly fought to be seen as more than a pretty face. Harlow's life off-screen was even more intriguing than her film roles. Her love life became a magnet for scandal, full of secret affairs and powerful men. Behind closed doors, she was linked to directors, actors, and studio heads, whispers of infidelity following her wherever she went. But it was her marriage to MGM executive Paul Byrne that would cause one of Hollywood's most enduring scandals. Just 2 months after their wedding, Paul Byrne was found dead in their home. The official report declared it a suicide, but Hollywood insiders weren't convinced. Was it really suicide, or was something more sinister at play? Some pointed to Byrne's mysterious past and physical problems, while others suspected that the studio covered up foul play to protect Harlow's budding career. MGM worked hard to silence the rumors, but the truth remained buried under a layer of Hollywood mystery. After Byrne's death, Harlow's relationships continued to make headlines. Her engagement to actor William Powell seemed like a new beginning, but even that relationship was fraught with turmoil. Powell hesitated to marry her. Rumors swirled about his resistance due to the chaos in her personal life, and their engagement became another scandal for the tabloids. Harlow wasn't just battling scandals in her personal life. She was also fighting a losing war against the studio system that controlled her every move. Hollywood's executives saw her only as a commodity, an object to be sold to the public as the platinum blonde, while Harlow longed for more creative control. She was tired of playing the same role over and over, typecast as the sexy blonde bombshell. She wanted to show her depth, her range, but the system wasn't interested. Her real battles weren't just with MGM executives. As Harlow fought for her independence, she was hiding another secret: her rapidly failing health. Jean was dealing with a serious kidney condition, a problem the studio downplayed for as long as they could. Her illness was kept hidden from the public, her bright smile masking the pain. Even as her body weakened, the studio forced her to keep working, pushing her into role after role, draining what little strength she had left. At just 26 years old, Jean Harlow's life came to a sudden and tragic end. The official cause of death was listed as complications from uremic poisoning, but her death only deepened the mystery surrounding her life. Hollywood buzzed with rumors of medical neglect, with whispers that her illness had been ignored for too long. Some suspected malpractice. Others wondered if the studio's relentless demands had been the final straw. MGM scrambled to contain the narrative. They framed her death as a natural, though tragic, loss, brushing aside the growing rumors. But behind the scenes, insiders knew there was more to the story. Harlow's health had been in decline for months, and the studio had done little to ease her burden, pushing her to perform until her body simply gave out. Jean Harlow's short life left a long-lasting impact on Hollywood. She became the archetype for the blonde bombshell, paving the way for stars like Marilyn Monroe, who would later be crafted in her image. But Harlow's legacy is not just one of glamour. It's a cautionary tale of how quickly stardom can turn dark. Even after her death, the scandals surrounding Harlow continued to haunt her legacy. The mystery of Paul Byrne's death remains one of Hollywood's most debated topics, and rumors of infidelity, illness, and mistreatment linger like ghosts from a bygone era. Studios continued to capitalize on her image, while the truth about her struggles remained hidden behind the glossy veneer of stardom. Jean Harlow's story reveals the dark underbelly of Hollywood's golden age. She was talented, beautiful, and adored by millions, yet she was also trapped, controlled by a system that saw her as a product rather than a person. Her life, marked by scandal, mystery, and tragedy, stands as a reminder of the hidden cost of fame. In the end, her rise to stardom was as rapid as her fall, and the secrets she carried with her to the grave continue to haunt Hollywood to this day. Veronica Lake. The name once shimmered across silver screens, a glamorous starlet with a signature hairstyle that captured the world's attention. Her peekaboo blonde locks made her an icon of 1940s cinema, but behind those cascading curls, her life unraveled into a series of secrets and scandals that few saw coming. Lake's story was not just one of fame, but of sabotage, heartbreak, and ultimately, ruin. At the height of her career, Veronica Lake was everywhere. Hollywood adored her look, the perfect combination of sultry mystery and icy glamour. The peekaboo hairstyle became her trademark and launched her into superstardom. Audiences mimicked her style, and she became the face of a generation. But that signature look quickly became her prison. Lake was typecast into the same roles, never allowed to branch out or show her range as an actress. Hollywood demanded she stay frozen in time, forever the blonde bombshell. This image, which brought her fame, also chained her to one-dimensional roles. As she grew weary of being cast in the same roles, Lake began to resent Hollywood's tight grip on her image. She fought back against the studio system, refusing to conform any longer. In return, it is rumored that her own studio, tired of her rebellion, sabotaged her career. The rumors whispered that Lake's refusal to play the game led to fewer roles and less favorable press. Lake's career wasn't the only thing teetering on the edge. The immense pressures of maintaining an image she no longer wanted led to mental health struggles. Behind the scenes, she battled alcoholism, a common escape for many in the industry who felt trapped by the relentless demands of Hollywood. But rather than help, the industry distanced itself. Lake's alcoholism grew, her behavior became erratic, and the headlines began to shift from glowing praise to scandalous tales of her decline. Hollywood is notorious for how quickly it forgets its stars, and for Lake, this was especially true. The very people who once sang her praises were nowhere to be found as her life began to crumble. Studios provided no support, and as her career fell apart, so did her personal life. After her fall from grace, Veronica Lake found herself struggling financially. Bankruptcy soon followed, and the woman who once represented Hollywood glamour was now living in obscurity. What shocked the public most was the revelation that Lake had spent time working as a barmaid in New York City, far removed from the glamorous world she once ruled. This period of her life became a scandal in itself. How could someone who had been such an integral part of Hollywood's golden age be abandoned so easily? Lake's fall from grace was swift and brutal, and the industry that had built her up now seemed indifferent to her suffering. Veronica Lake's personal life was no less turbulent. She married 4 times, and each union brought its own set of scandals. Her third marriage to the Hungarian director André de Toth was particularly fraught with allegations of domestic disputes and infidelity. The marriage crumbled under the weight of these public struggles, but perhaps the most devastating secret came from her role as a mother. Lake later confessed that she had been an absent mother, admitting that her career, and later her personal demons, kept her away from her children. This confession haunted her, as it painted a tragic picture of a woman torn between fame and family, and ultimately losing both. Even as her life spiraled, Veronica Lake refused to go quietly. In her final years, she became increasingly vocal about her disdain for Hollywood's treatment of her. She spoke out against the industry that had left her behind, And in her tell-all autobiography, she exposed the harsh truths of her life, revealing the cold, brutal nature of the fame machine. Despite her tragic fall, Lake maintained a certain defiance. She wasn't willing to let Hollywood rewrite her story completely. Her tell-all shocked many who still clung to the image of the perfect starlet. But for Lake, it was a final act of taking control over her narrative, a way to reclaim her voice in an industry that had long silenced her. Veronica Lake's life is a haunting reminder of the cost of fame. While her peekaboo hairstyle may forever be remembered, her legacy is far more complex. Behind the beauty and glamour was a woman fighting against an industry that both created and destroyed her. As we look back on her life, it's clear that Veronica Lake was more than just a starlet. She was a victim of Hollywood's unforgiving nature. Her secrets and scandals tell a tale of an industry that devours its stars when they no longer shine as brightly. In the end, Lake's story isn't just about Hollywood. It's about what happens when the spotlight fades and the world turns its back. Howard Hughes. The name evokes images of genius, wealth, and success. An aviation pioneer, a Hollywood mogul, a man with an unrelenting drive for innovation. But behind the myth, behind the towering figure of success, was a man consumed by obsession and power. While his business conquests were remarkable, his personal life was marked by control, scandal, and manipulation. His relationships with Hollywood's brightest stars were not mere love affairs. They were power struggles, leaving many in their wake scarred and discarded. Beneath the glamour and the riches, there lurked something much darker. Ava Gardner, the epitome of old Hollywood glamour, fiercely independent, and one of Hughes's most passionate pursuits. Their relationship was anything but normal. Hughes showered her with gifts, praise, and attention, but it wasn't enough. He wanted control. Rumors surfaced that he wiretapped her phone and even hired men to follow her. The more Gardner pulled away, the tighter Hughes tried to hold on, but she refused to be dominated. Despite his wealth and power, Gardner fought for her independence, ultimately walking away from the man who wanted to own her. Then came Katharine Hepburn, a woman as strong-willed and ambitious as Hughes himself. Together, they were an odd match, two titans in their fields, both chasing greatness. For a time, Hughes used his influence to elevate Hepburn's career, financing her films and ensuring her success. But Hepburn, like Gardner, was not easily controlled. She thrived on freedom, and Hughes's attempts to control her career and life became suffocating. Eventually, she left, choosing her independence over his wealth. Jean Harlow, the blonde bombshell Hughes cast in Hell's Angels, wasn't just another actress to him. She was a symbol of his control over Hollywood. The film's scandalous content pushed boundaries, boosting Harlow's image but tarnishing her reputation. Hughes saw her as a tool to create buzz, and while the film made her a star, it also trapped her in a box she couldn't escape. Hughes's obsession wasn't just about love, it was about power over careers, images, and women. And then there was Ginger Rogers, the beloved actress Hughes chased with relentless determination. He sent her lavish gifts, everything from jewels to airplanes, attempting to buy her affection. But Rogers, like many of Hughes' pursuits, grew wary of his controlling behavior. Despite his wealth, she kept her distance, but rumors persisted. Did his romantic attention influence her career? Could his gifts and gestures have come with hidden expectations? The lines between affection and manipulation blurred, as they so often did with Hughes. At the height of his influence, Hughes acquired RKO Pictures, a move that gave him unprecedented power in Hollywood. He wasn't just a mogul, he was the puppet master behind the curtain. With control over the studio, Hughes had the power to make or break careers. Actresses he was romantically involved with were offered roles, while those who rejected him found themselves blacklisted, their careers in jeopardy. The studio became a toxic environment, dominated by Hughes' whims and paranoia. His micromanagement, particularly of the female stars, contributed to RKO's decline and left a trail of ruined reputations in its wake. But it wasn't just about career manipulation. Hughes' obsession with control extended far beyond the professional realm. Whispers of blackmail, surveillance, and coercion began to circulate. Some women were rumored to have stayed close to him, fearing what might happen to their careers if they didn't. Others spoke of Hughes blacklisting them if they dared to resist his advances, silencing them with contracts and threats. The imbalance of power was stark. Hughes had everything: wealth, connections, influence, while the women he pursued had their livelihoods hanging in the balance. As Hughes aged, his grip on reality slipped. His paranoia grew, and his behavior became more erratic. He locked himself away in darkened rooms for days at a time, avoiding contact with the outside world. His relationships, once merely controlling, turned into something far more sinister. Women he had been involved with found themselves under constant surveillance. He wiretapped their phones, hired private investigators to follow them, and tracked their every move. His obsession was no longer just about romance. It was about total domination. The fallout for the actresses entangled with Hughes was severe. Some saw their careers falter as a result of his control. Others had their reputations tarnished by rumors and speculation. Hughes's influence cast a long shadow over their lives, leaving them trapped in contracts that dictated both their professional and personal choices. For many, escape wasn't just difficult, it was nearly impossible. To the public, Howard Hughes remained the dashing, enigmatic billionaire. His accomplishments in aviation and film overshadowed the dark secrets of his personal life. The media, ever at his beck and call, painted him as a genius, a misunderstood visionary whose eccentricities only added to his allure. But behind closed doors, the real Howard Hughes was a man who used his wealth and power to manipulate, control, and discard the women who crossed his path. Some scandals managed to fly under the radar, hidden by Hughes's ability to buy silence and manipulate the press. But those who knew the truth, those who had lived it, were left with the scars of his obsession. For Hughes, secrecy was his greatest weapon, and he wielded it with precision. Howard Hughes' legacy is a complicated one. His contributions to aviation and film are undeniable, but the darker aspects of his life cannot be ignored. He wasn't just a brilliant innovator. He was a man who wielded his power over Hollywood's brightest stars, often to their detriment. The women he pursued, Ava Gardner, Katharine Hepburn, Jean Harlow, and others, are remembered, not only for their talent, but for their struggles against a man whose obsession knew no bounds. In the end, Hughes's legacy is one of contradictions, a man of great achievements, yet haunted by his own compulsions. His story is a reminder that power, unchecked, can corrupt even the most brilliant minds. And for the women of Hollywood, Hughes' influence remains a lasting reminder of the cost of fame in a world dominated by men like him. Hollywood, a place of glitz, glamour, and dreams, has long been the land where stars are born and legends made. But beneath the shiny surface lies a shadowy past. For decades, the world of organized crime quietly wove itself into the very fabric of Tinseltown. Behind the flashing cameras and red carpets were mobsters pulling strings, influencing stars, studios, and even the films that defined generations. From the golden era to today, the connection between Hollywood and the mob wasn't just a rumor. It was a well-kept secret. How deep did these ties run, and who were the players that lurked behind the scenes? To understand the mob's grip on Hollywood, we start with the clubs where the stars played and where the mob made their first moves. Bugsy Siegel, a notorious gangster, helped transform Hollywood's nightlife in the 1930s and 40s. Siegel wasn't just a gangster. He was a businessman with a vision, investing in clubs like the Trocadero and the Clover Club. These venues became hotspots for actors, directors, and studio heads, mingling with mobsters, knowingly or not. Mickey Cohen, a violent and feared figure in Los Angeles, worked alongside Siegel. He controlled much of the gambling and entertainment scene, ensuring that the mob had a say in everything from who partied where to which contracts got signed. These mob-run nightclubs were more than places to drink and dance. They were where deals were struck, Careers were made, and relationships between Hollywood and the mob were cemented. But it wasn't just nightclubs that the mob had its sights on. Money talks, and for Hollywood studios, mob money was hard to turn down. Meyer Lansky, one of the most powerful mobsters of all time, allegedly funneled money into Hollywood productions. Some studios, desperate for cash, turned a blind eye to the origins of this funding. In return, the mob had a way to influence what made it to the big screen and which stars shone brightest. The rumors swirled about studio heads colluding with gangsters, making sure certain actors succeeded while others saw their careers buried. It wasn't just about box office success. The mob wanted control over the image Hollywood projected to the world. Then there was Johnny Rosselli. If you've ever wondered who the mob's inside man in Hollywood was, look no further. Rosselli served as the bridge between organized crime and the film industry. His ties to major studios like MGM were no secret, and he often made suggestions that studio heads couldn't refuse. With the mob's grip tightening, the influence seeped beyond financing and into the very lives of Hollywood's biggest stars. When you think of classic gangster movies, actors like Edward G. Robinson come to mind. Famous for his gangster roles, Robinson had his own brush with the real mob. While he was never fully under their control, the influence of organized crime hung over him and many other stars like a dark cloud. George Raft, on the other hand, had closer ties. His friendship with Bugsy Siegel and other mobsters wasn't just for show. It was real. Raft's career choices and public persona were deeply affected by his connections to organized crime. He reportedly turned down roles that portrayed gangsters poorly, out of respect, or perhaps fear, of his underworld friends. It wasn't just roles that the mob influenced. Stars were sometimes encouraged to marry certain individuals or associate with specific people. Marriages were a tool for the mob, used to control stars or ensure their loyalty. Careers could be made or ruined based on a single mobster's favor or disfavor. But the mob didn't stop at influencing actors. It went after the very structure of Hollywood itself. Behind the cameras, the real power struggle was in the unions. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, IATSE, was one of the most powerful unions in Hollywood, and the mob wanted in. They infiltrated unions, using threats, strikes, and violence to gain control. The labor wars of Hollywood were bloody and ruthless, with mobsters battling studio heads and other unions for power. The mob wasn't just interested in making movies. They wanted to control the entire production process, from start to finish. As the years passed and major crime families crumbled under law enforcement pressure, the mob's influence over Hollywood started to fade. The crackdown on organized crime in the 1950s and 60s weakened the mob's grip, but their legacy remains etched in Hollywood's history. While today's Hollywood may not have the same direct mob ties, the impact of those shadowy years can still be felt. Many stars, directors, and studio heads owe their careers, or their downfalls, to decisions made in smoky backrooms, far from the glitz of the silver screen. Hollywood is a place where light and dark have always coexisted. For decades, the bright lights of fame and fortune masked the darker underworld of organized crime. The mob wasn't just a part of Hollywood's history. It was integral to the deals, the careers, and the very culture of the industry. But who knows what other secrets still remain hidden behind the glitz and glamour of the silver screen. Elizabeth Taylor. Her name conjures images of diamonds, velvet gowns, and the unmistakable allure of old Hollywood. But it wasn't just her beauty or acting talent that made her unforgettable. Taylor's love life became one of Hollywood's most scandalous sagas, marked by 8 marriages, countless affairs, and public betrayals. She wasn't merely a starlet. She was a walking controversy, every relationship more dramatic than the last. What makes her story so fascinating is that her romances didn't just play out on the screen. They unfolded in front of the entire world, with every twist and turn captured by the press. Elizabeth Taylor's first marriage to hotel heir Conrad Nicky Hilton seemed like something out of a fairy tale. Hollywood's young darling married into the Hilton dynasty, and MGM, the studio backing her career, transformed the wedding into a glamorous media event. But behind the dazzling veil of diamonds and luxury, the reality was far from perfect. Hilton was violent and verbally abusive, and the fairy tale quickly turned into a nightmare. In less than a year, Taylor's first foray into love ended in divorce, leaving her with deep emotional scars. The end of this marriage set the stage for the turbulent love life that would follow her for decades. After the heartbreak of her first marriage, Taylor sought refuge with British actor Michael Wilding, a man 20 years her senior. Their relationship was far more stable than her previous one. Wilding, with his calm demeanor and maturity, seemed like a grounding force in her whirlwind life. They settled into a quiet, albeit brief, domesticity, marked by the birth of their 2 children. But as Taylor's fame skyrocketed, the couple drifted apart. Wilding, whose career was waning, couldn't keep up with her rising star. Their 5-year marriage ended quietly, without the drama or scandal that would plague her later unions. Taylor's third marriage to movie producer Mike Todd was everything her previous relationships were not: bold, passionate, and full of life. Todd adored Taylor, and their larger-than-life romance captivated Hollywood. It seemed, for a moment, that she had found her true love. But just over a year into their marriage, tragedy struck when Todd was killed in a plane crash. Taylor was devastated, and Hollywood grieved alongside her. However, in the aftermath of this loss, Taylor became entangled in one of her most notorious scandals, a relationship with Todd's close friend, Eddie Fisher, who was married to her best friend, Debbie Reynolds. The affair shook Hollywood to its core, casting Taylor as the villain in a story of betrayal. Elizabeth Taylor's affair with Eddie Fisher became one of Hollywood's most infamous love triangles. Fisher left his wife, the beloved Debbie Reynolds, for Taylor, sparking a media frenzy that painted Taylor as a homewrecker. Reynolds had been America's sweetheart, and the betrayal was seen as unforgivable. The public turned against Taylor, and her image as a glamorous starlet was tarnished. But the relationship with Fisher was doomed from the start. Taylor soon realized that her marriage to Fisher was a mistake, and their divorce came swiftly, bringing another round of public scrutiny. Yet, despite the backlash, Taylor moved on, unapologetic and undeterred. If any relationship defined Elizabeth Taylor's love life, it was her affair with Richard Burton. They met on the set of Cleopatra, and their chemistry was undeniable. The only problem? Both were already married. Their passionate affair became tabloid fodder, making headlines around the world. It was the ultimate Hollywood scandal, 2 of the most famous stars engaging in a very public and very volatile love affair. Their relationship was a roller coaster of breakups, makeups, lavish gifts, and public fights. Burton and Taylor were married twice, and both times their marriages were as dramatic off-screen as their performances were on-screen. It seemed that no amount of passion could save them from the chaos they created together. Between marriages to Burton, Taylor's love life was far from quiet. There were numerous affairs and flings, including rumored romances with British aristocrats and high-profile actors. Though many of these relationships didn't make front-page news, whispers about her entanglements never stopped. Taylor was known for her magnetic presence, and her personal life remained under constant scrutiny. Even in moments of quiet, Taylor's love life was a constant source of speculation. Elizabeth Taylor's 6th marriage to U.S. Senator John Warner was a sharp turn from her previous relationships. She traded Hollywood glamour for the quiet life of a politician's wife in Washington, D.C., but the role didn't suit her. Taylor found herself bored and disillusioned, far removed from the lights and cameras she was used to. As she struggled to fit into Warner's world, she began to spiral, turning to alcohol and pills to cope. The marriage, strained by her growing unhappiness, ended in divorce, and Taylor once again found herself in the public eye for all the wrong reasons. In a final twist, Elizabeth Taylor's 8th and last marriage was to a construction worker named Larry Fortensky, whom she met during a stint in rehab. The unlikely couple became the subject of endless tabloid stories, with many questioning the sincerity of their relationship. But for a brief time, Taylor and Fortensky appeared genuinely happy together. Despite the public scrutiny and the stark differences between their lives, they seemed to find comfort in each other. However, their marriage ended in divorce after 5 years, marking the end of Taylor's turbulent love life. Fortensky was the last of her great loves, and she never remarried. While Taylor's public relationships were already filled with drama, there were plenty of secrets lurking behind the scenes. Hollywood insiders whispered about her rumored affairs with powerful directors, producers, and political figures. These relationships didn't make headlines, but they added to her mystique. Even in her private life, Taylor's romances were the subject of endless fascination, painting her as both a seductress and a victim of her own desires. Elizabeth Taylor's love life, though filled with scandal, betrayal, and heartbreak, ultimately became a defining aspect of her legacy. Her ability to survive, time and time again, through public ridicule and personal tragedy, solidified her status as one of Hollywood's most resilient icons. Taylor's love affairs were just as legendary as her career, and they helped to shape her into the enduring symbol of glamour, strength, and defiance she remains today. Despite the many scandals, Elizabeth Taylor never shied away from love, making her story one of the most captivating in Hollywood history. Old Hollywood may have shined bright on the surface, but behind the curtain, it was a whole different story. Beneath the glitz, the glamour, and the flashing cameras, some of its biggest stars were tangled in scandals and secrets that would make your head spin. Cheating, betrayal, and messy love triangles weren't just plot lines. They were real life for these icons. The red carpets were elegant, but their private lives? A train wreck of affairs and infidelities that could rival any blockbuster drama. Clark Gable, known as the King of Hollywood, was adored for his rugged good looks and powerful screen presence. His performances defined the golden age of cinema, but off-screen, Gable was a notorious womanizer. His reputation for serial cheating was well known across Hollywood, where whispers of his infidelity circulated constantly. One of the most shocking revelations was his long-term affair with actress Loretta Young. While filming Call of the Wild together, the pair engaged in a secret romance that led to the birth of a daughter, a fact both tried to keep hidden for decades. This wasn't the only indiscretion in Gable's life. His liaisons with Joan Crawford, Lana Turner, and Virginia Gray were also open secrets. Even while married to beloved actress Carole Lombard, Gable couldn't seem to remain faithful. Rumors swirled that he had affairs with starlets like Marion Davies and Claudette Colbert. His personal life was a mess of secret rendezvous and hidden affairs. But despite the scandals, Gable's public image remained untarnished for years. It wasn't until decades later that the full scope of his infidelities became public knowledge, proving that even the biggest stars weren't immune to Hollywood's most destructive temptations. Ava Gardner was the quintessential Hollywood femme fatale, known for her beauty and seductive charm. Her love life was just as intense as her roles on screen, and she quickly gained a reputation for being unable or unwilling to stay faithful. Married 3 times, Gardner's relationships were marked by infidelity and explosive arguments. Her first marriage, to the boyish Mickey Rooney, ended in disaster when she caught him cheating. But Gardner wasn't one to sit quietly by. Even during her second marriage to bandleader Artie Shaw, Gardner engaged in several affairs, including one with billionaire Howard Hughes. Her third marriage, to Frank Sinatra, was even more chaotic. Both Gardner and Sinatra were known to stray, with rumors of her flings with stars like Gregory Peck and Peter Lawford circulating in the tabloids. Gardner's wild love life was the talk of Hollywood, and despite the turbulent relationships, she remained a favorite among men. Her confidence and refusal to apologize for her behavior made her one of old Hollywood's most fascinating and controversial leading ladies. Errol Flynn was the perfect hero on screen, charming, adventurous, and effortlessly good-looking. But behind the scenes, Flynn was a notorious playboy whose affairs were as legendary as his film roles. His marriages, including to Lily DeMita and Nora Eddington, were fraught with infidelity, with Flynn constantly involved in romantic entanglements with his co-stars and younger women. His affair with Olivia de Havilland was long rumored, but denied by the actress herself. Other liaisons, however, were more openly discussed, including relationships with Ida Lupino and Patricia Wymore. Flynn's personal life became so scandalous that in 1943 he was tried for statutory rape, though he was ultimately acquitted. The trial cemented his reputation as a Hollywood bad boy, and his nickname, In Like Flynn, only fueled the gossip surrounding his endless string of affairs. Tallulah Bankhead was bold, eccentric, and completely unapologetic about her love life. Known for her fearless attitude and love of breaking the rules, Bankhead's romantic escapades included affairs with both men and women. She was rumored to have had liaisons with Hollywood heavyweights like Marlene Dietrich, Hattie McDaniel, and even Gary Cooper, whom she once famously described in a colorful and very public manner. Bankhead's love life was scandalous even by Hollywood standards, but she refused to conform to society's expectations. Whether it was seducing Johnny Weissmuller or pursuing affairs with women behind closed doors, Bankhead lived life on her own terms. Her free-spirited nature and open bisexuality were a rarity in the puritanical Hollywood of her time, and she became known as one of the most daring women of her generation. Frank Sinatra's smooth voice and romantic ballads made him a beloved figure, but behind the scenes, his love life was anything but serene. Sinatra's relationships were notoriously volatile, especially his marriage to Ava Gardner. The pair were known for their mutual infidelities, with Sinatra having affairs with women like Marilyn Monroe and Angie Dickinson, and Gardner stepping out with other leading men. Sinatra's first marriage to Nancy Barbato also ended in disaster after his affair with screen icon Judy Garland became public knowledge. The crooner's wandering eye didn't stop with his later marriages either, and rumors continued to swirl about his indiscretions with younger actresses. Even as he entered the later stages of his career, Lana Turner, with her smoldering looks and dramatic screen presence, was Hollywood's femme fatale both on and off the screen. Turner was married 8 times, and in between her marriages, she had numerous affairs with the industry's biggest stars. Her lovers included Howard Hughes, Frank Sinatra, and Tyrone Power. One of her most scandalous relationships was with Johnny Stompanato, a mob enforcer whose volatile romance with Turner ended in his violent death. The incident, involving Turner's daughter Cheryl stabbing Stompanato in self-defense, sent shockwaves through Hollywood and cemented Turner's place as one of old Hollywood's most infamous figures. Despite her many marriages and high-profile affairs, Turner never found lasting love, living a life marked by heartbreak and betrayal. Old Hollywood may have been glamorous on the surface, but its stars were no strangers to scandal. Serial cheaters like Clark Gable, Ava Gardner, and Errol Flynn lived lives full of infidelity and betrayal, their personal dramas often overshadowing their on-screen performances. Despite the best efforts of studios to keep these affairs under wraps, the truth eventually came to light. And while the cameras stopped rolling long ago, their stories of romance and deception continue to captivate audiences, revealing the messy, often heartbreaking truth behind the golden age of cinema. What lies behind the piercing gaze and velvet voice of Lauren Bacall? Was it just raw talent and undeniable beauty, or did her rise to stardom come with shadows darker than anyone imagined? Bacall, the epitome of the classic Hollywood femme fatale, held secrets that were as intoxicating as the roles she played. She captivated audiences on screen, but off-screen, she lived a life full of forbidden romances, political intrigue, and scandalous rumors. Let's pull back the curtain and uncover the truths hidden behind the sultry screen siren. From the moment she starred alongside Humphrey Bogart in To Have and Have Not, Lauren Bacall's chemistry with him was electric. But there was more to Bacall than just a devoted wife. Rumors swirled about a torrid affair with Kirk Douglas, a man as charismatic as he was powerful. Though she was married to Bogart at the time, whispers from Hollywood's most intimate circles suggested that Bacall's allure was impossible for her co-stars to resist. Kirk Douglas was just one name among many. Her private life remained shrouded in secrecy, though the gossip pages speculated about other leading men, hinting at behind-the-scenes affairs that could topple her golden image. These rumors weren't just idle chatter. They were fueled by sly glances, stolen moments on set, and long nights spent together away from the cameras. But Bacall, ever the master manipulator of her own image, managed to keep the truth buried. The question remained, was the screen siren living a life as daring as her characters? In a twist straight out of a political thriller, Bacall's name became linked to one of the most powerful men in the country, President John F. Kennedy. The public saw their friendship as harmless, but Hollywood insiders had a different story to tell. Some speculated that Bacall's closeness to JFK was more than just friendly. After all, Bacall had already captured the attention of another president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, during her rise to fame. That selfie she famously took with FDR only added fuel to the fire. Did her friendships with these powerful men extend beyond the platonic? It's a question that haunted her for decades. And though no solid proof ever surfaced, the whispers followed her, suggesting that Bacall wasn't just navigating Hollywood's elite, but also the corridors of political power. The most public scandal of Bacall's life came not from Hollywood, but from her whirlwind romance with Frank Sinatra. When news of their engagement broke, it seemed like a match made in heaven. Bacall and Sinatra were both icons in their own right, glamorous figures who seemed to belong together. But without warning, Sinatra called off the engagement. The breakup blindsided Bacall, leaving her heartbroken and humiliated. Behind the scenes, darker forces seemed to be at play. Some suspected that Sinatra's sudden withdrawal wasn't just cold feet, but was orchestrated by mob connections who didn't approve of the union. Whatever the reason, Bacall's heartbreak played out in front of the public eye, and for once, she couldn't control the narrative. Her personal pain became another chapter in her scandalous life. Bacall's activism was well known, but it came with risks. At a time when Hollywood was under intense scrutiny for its ties to communism, Bacall's political stance made her a target. She was outspoken and aligned with progressive causes, which didn't sit well with powerful figures in the industry. Publicly, she was supported, but behind the scenes, there were whispers of scandalous associations with communist sympathizers. The Hollywood blacklist loomed over her career, and Bacall's outspokenness almost put her on it. Studios feared the backlash, and executives tried to silence her, but Bacall refused to be quiet. It was a dangerous game, one that could have ended her career. But once again, Bacall managed to dodge disaster, walking the fine line between activism and maintaining her place in Hollywood's elite. Bacall was not just an actress. She was a survivor of Hollywood's cutthroat studio system. In an era when stars were controlled by contracts and studios dictated every move, Bacall navigated the system with shrewdness. Her public image was carefully crafted, a femme fatale who tantalized audiences but kept her personal life veiled in secrecy. She knew how to manipulate the press, cover up affairs, and protect her private life from prying eyes. Her infamous publicity stunts, appearing in risque photo shoots and playing up her sultry persona, were more than just promotional tactics. They were calculated moves to keep the tabloids distracted from her real life. She used her image as both a weapon and a shield, always one step ahead of the scandals that could have destroyed her. Bacall knew how to play the game, and she played it better than most. Lauren Bacall's legacy is more than just her films. It's the mystery she left behind. She was a woman who navigated Hollywood's dark corridors with grace and cunning, leaving a trail of secrets that the world may never fully know. From forbidden romances to political intrigue, Bacall's life was as captivating as any role she played on screen. Her allure wasn't just in her looks or voice, but in the secrets she kept locked away. And that, perhaps, is what makes her one of Hollywood's most enduring icons, the ultimate femme fatale, both on and off the screen. Hollywood, with its glittering lights and promises of eternal fame, has long captivated the world. But for some, the allure of early stardom comes at an unforgivable cost. Child stars, once cherished by millions, often face a much darker fate. Behind the scenes, they are thrust into a whirlwind of relentless pressures, exploitation, and manipulation, turning their childhood dreams into nightmares. Hollywood's ruthless demands have chewed up and spit out some of its brightest young talents, leaving behind cautionary tales of lost innocence. Judy Garland wasn't just born into the entertainment world, she was crafted for it. From a young age, MGM Studios took control of every aspect of her life, ensuring she was the perfect starlet. Known for her role in The Wizard of Oz, she embodied innocence on screen. But behind the scenes, she was subjected to a toxic regime. Garland was fed diet pills, stimulants, and pushed to her limits by grueling work hours. MGM treated her like a commodity, stripping away her autonomy. Every inch of her life, from what she ate to how she behaved, was controlled. In the end, it wasn't the fame that destroyed her. It was the relentless control and exploitation. As the years passed, Garland struggled with substance abuse and mental health issues, desperate to reclaim her identity. Tragically, at just 47, she died from a drug overdose. Her story stands as a grim reminder of what happens when young stars are treated as products rather than people. At just 7 years old, Jackie Coogan became a sensation after starring alongside Charlie Chaplin in The Kid. He was one of the first child actors to reach worldwide fame, but that fame came at a hefty price. Coogan earned millions by today's standards, but none of it was safe. His mother and stepfather squandered his fortune, leaving him with nothing. Hollywood had no system to protect child actors from financial exploitation, and Coogan was powerless. He sued his mother in a bitter court battle, but the damage was done. His childhood fortune was gone. Though his efforts led to the creation of the Coogan Law, designed to protect child actors' earnings, Coogan's life was marked by financial struggles and personal hardship. He never regained the fame he once had, living as a symbol of how the industry failed to protect its youngest stars. Bobby Driscoll was the golden child of Disney, lending his voice and face to Peter Pan. He had it all: fame, fortune, and a bright future. But as soon as adolescence hit, Hollywood discarded him. No longer the perfect image of childhood, Driscoll was left to fend for himself. Abandoned by the very system that had built him, Driscoll spiraled into drug addiction. Unable to find work, he turned to petty crime and struggled with substance abuse. His life fell apart, piece by piece, until he died at the age of 31, alone in an abandoned building. Hollywood, the machine that once adored him, forgot him entirely. His body was found and buried in an unmarked grave, a chilling end for the once beloved boy who flew audiences to Neverland. Carl Switzer, known to millions as Alfalfa from The Little Rascals, was one of Hollywood's most beloved child stars. But after his childhood fame waned, Switzer found himself typecast, unable to secure meaningful roles as an adult. Struggling financially, Switzer turned to petty crime. His life took a tragic turn when he was shot and killed at 31 during a dispute over money. The same industry that adored him as a child had no room for him as an adult, leaving him to fend for himself in a world that no longer cared for the rascally charm that once made him famous. Diana Sarah Carey, better known as Baby Peggy, was Hollywood's first true child star. In the 1920s, she was the face of silent films, bringing joy to millions. Yet behind the scenes, her parents controlled her every move, exploiting her fame and spending her earnings recklessly. When the silent film era ended, so did her career. Left penniless, Baby Peggy was forced into a life of poverty, working menial jobs just to survive. She lived a long life, but her childhood, spent in front of cameras, left her with nothing but memories of exploitation and lost opportunities. Scotty Beckett was another star from The Little Rascals, known for his boyish charm. But like so many child stars, Hollywood abandoned him once he outgrew his cute persona. Beckett struggled to adjust to life outside the spotlight, turning to alcohol and drugs to cope with his fading fame. He faced numerous legal troubles, including arrests for drug possession and burglary. By 38, his life came to a tragic end. Found dead in mysterious circumstances, many believe he succumbed to a drug overdose. His death serves as another reminder of Hollywood's tendency to discard its child stars when they are no longer profitable. Bobby Blake, once known as Mickey Gubitosi in Our Gang, found success as an adult actor, but his fame came at a price. After decades in the spotlight, Blake's personal demons caught up with him in a major way. In 2001, he was accused of murdering his wife, Bonnie Lee Backley. Although acquitted of the criminal charges, Blake's reputation was ruined. He was later found liable in a civil suit, and the scandal left him financially ruined and disgraced. Once a beloved child star, Blake's later years were consumed by scandal, a tragic end to a long Hollywood career. Mickey Rooney was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood history. Known for films like National Velvet and the Andy Hardy series, he enjoyed a level of fame few could imagine. But Rooney's immense success didn't shield him from the pitfalls of child stardom. Despite his long career, Rooney struggled with substance abuse, financial mismanagement, and multiple divorces. He declared bankruptcy multiple times, losing the fortune he had spent decades building. Though he worked until his death, his life was filled with personal and financial turmoil, another victim of Hollywood's relentless pressure. The stories of Hollywood's fallen child stars aren't just about broken dreams. They're about a system that chewed up young talent for profit, leaving them broken and discarded when the cameras stopped rolling. These cautionary tales reveal the dark side of fame, the exploitation, manipulation, and lack of protection for the industry's youngest stars. Their legacies aren't just their iconic films, but the haunting reminders of how fame, when mismanaged, can destroy lives. The glitz and glamour of old Hollywood have long mesmerized audiences. But behind the dazzling lights and red carpets lies a darker truth. A truth of control, exploitation, and shattered lives. Beneath the surface, the very studios that created icons were often the same ones that destroyed them. In the golden age of Hollywood, no star was safe. Studios ruled with an iron fist, and their pursuit of profit often came at a terrible cost. As we peel back the layers of old Hollywood's golden facade, we find that behind each iconic studio stood a trail of broken stars, their lives crushed under the weight of the studio system. Let's dive into some of the most shocking examples. MGM was known for producing some of the brightest stars in Hollywood, but those stars often experienced the dark side of the studio's power. Few stars shined as brightly as Judy Garland, the girl who captured hearts in The Wizard of Oz. But her fame came at a high price, orchestrated by MGM, the studio that controlled her life from a young age. Garland was barely a teenager when MGM molded her into their vision of a perfect star. They tightly controlled her appearance, placing her on strict diets and forcing her to take dangerous drugs, amphetamines to keep her energized, and barbiturates to help her sleep. The pressure to maintain her ideal weight and constantly perform weighed heavily on her. The studio's lack of concern for her well-being left Garland with lifelong struggles. Addiction and mental health issues plagued her, much of it stemming from MGM's manipulations. They didn't care about her health, only her profitability. MGM's exploitation of Garland shows how far studios would go to create stars, disregarding the human toll. Their control destroyed her from the inside out, pushing her toward a tragic end. Warner Brothers took a different approach, using its influence to craft the image of swashbuckling heroes while covering up the darker realities behind the scenes. Warner Brothers shaped Errol Flynn into the ultimate swashbuckling hero, but behind the scenes, the studio was hiding a far darker narrative. Flynn was a Hollywood sensation, but his off-screen life was riddled with scandal. When faced with serious legal troubles, including accusations of sexual assault, Warner Brothers didn't offer help. Instead, they manipulated the media to protect his image, ensuring his box office draw remained intact. Flynn's struggles were swept under the rug, not out of concern for him, but because his downfall would hurt their profits. Warner Brothers cared little for Flynn's personal problems. As long as he kept filling theaters, they were content to let him spiral. Flynn's story is a clear example of Warner Brothers' willingness to prioritize money over morality. They saw Flynn not as a person, but as a product. Paramount Pictures, a studio synonymous with glamour, showed just how quickly they could discard a star. Clara Bow, the it girl of the 1920s, brought glamour and excitement to the screen. But when her mental health began to decline, Paramount Pictures showed just how disposable their stars could be. As Bow faced increasing scrutiny from the media, Paramount abandoned her. They did nothing to shield her from the ruthless tabloids that preyed on her vulnerabilities. In fact, they even leaked damaging rumors about her personal life, feeding the frenzy that contributed to her breakdown. Once Beau was no longer the carefree, profitable star she once was, Paramount discarded her like a broken toy. Paramount's treatment of Clara Bow illustrates how studios exploited stars when they were profitable and abandoned them the moment they became a liability. 20th Century Fox capitalized on the charm of its stars, but behind the scenes, the exploitation was just beginning. Shirley Temple was the face of innocence in old Hollywood, a symbol of purity and charm. But behind the scenes, 20th Century Fox was exploiting her childhood for profit. Temple was placed in roles and environments that were far too mature for a child. She was expected to behave like an adult, subjected to long hours on set and overwhelming pressure to keep up her joyful persona. Fox saw her as nothing more than a cash cow, pushing her into situations that no child should endure, all in the name of profit. Temple's story is a stark reminder that even children weren't immune to the exploitation of Hollywood. Fox treated her not as a child, but as a product to be sold. RKO Pictures, a studio that helped shape the careers of countless stars, was not above abandoning them during their most vulnerable times. Frances Farmer was a rising star at RKO Pictures, known for her beauty and talent. But when she began to struggle with mental illness, RKO turned their back on her. Farmer was institutionalized and subjected to horrific treatments, including electroshock therapy, which left her physically and mentally scarred. RKO did nothing to intervene or help. They stood by silently as her life unraveled, abandoning her at her lowest point. Farmer's story is one of the darkest examples of how stars were discarded once they became difficult. Universal Pictures capitalized on the legacy of horror films, but even monsters weren't immune to the studio's callousness. Lon Chaney Jr., the man behind the monster in The Wolfman, was another victim of the studio system. Universal Pictures exploited his talents while ignoring his struggles with alcoholism. As his addiction worsened, Universal continued to push him into demanding roles. They saw his personal battles as irrelevant as long as he could still bring their horror films to life. His physical and emotional health deteriorated, but Universal showed no interest in offering support. Universal's exploitation of Chaney highlights how studios capitalized on stars until there was nothing left to take, contributing to his tragic decline. Columbia Pictures was ruled by a tyrant who controlled female stars with an iron fist. At Columbia Pictures, studio head Harry Cohn ruled with an iron fist. He wielded his power mercilessly, especially when it came to controlling female stars. Rita Hayworth, one of Columbia's biggest names, was forced by Cohn to undergo painful physical changes to fit the image he wanted. Cohn was known for manipulating and mistreating women, shaping their careers or destroying them based on his personal whims. His tyrannical reign over Columbia turned the studio into a place of fear, where the slightest rebellion could end a star's career. Cohn's domination at Columbia shows how power in Hollywood could be wielded as a weapon, often with devastating personal consequences for the stars under his control. No studio was innocent. In the pursuit of profit, the well-being of Hollywood stars was often sacrificed. From the heartbreaking struggles of Judy Garland to the tragic institutionalization of Frances Farmer, the studio system was built on the backs of those it exploited and discarded. The glamour of old Hollywood may still enchant us, but beneath that shine lies a trail of broken lives, crushed by a system that valued money above all else. These stories remind us that the real cost of fame was paid in personal suffering, and that glittering success often hid a far darker reality.